I tell you what, Pete, not surprisingly, like all others who are graced by his presence, we really like this guy.
Everybody loves him, and he's the best interview in the history of fighting.
You're damn right. His tell it like it is attitude combined with great success in his endeavors has led to a personality that's hard to top when it comes to guests right here on the Petros and Money Show.
Let me say he's a tie with Muhammad Ali when it comes to the greatest interview in the history of fighting.
A one-time aerobics instructor turned manager, the man who helped make Tito Ortiz before reaching unfathomable at the time heights in his world of mixed martial arts, is back again to talk UFC 118 out there Saturday at TD Bank North Garden. Woo! A spot he's quite fond of, I have to believe, given his allegiance to those pesky Red Sox. We welcome back to the Petros and Money Show the current president of the UFC, the great Dana White. What's happening, Dana?
What's up, guys? How are you?
Real good. So, Boston, your first time you fought in Massachusetts with the UFC. What took you so long, and how exciting is this for you to go to a spot where you kind of grew up?
Yeah, I'm excited. The last two holdouts were, Boston and New York. We got Boston done. We're waiting on New York. We even got Toronto done before we get New York done. But it's very exciting for me. I'm pumped to go back there. Boston's been one of those towns. I lived there for a while. I have some roots there, and they always treated me like one of their own and have always rooted for me. So I'm excited to bring it there.
Now, I was at a movie. I rarely go to the movie theater because I don't like sitting in the dark and there's people behind you and God knows what can happen. But I was at a movie in Tucson, Arizona over the weekend, and they said that I was going to be able to see the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC event, at TD Bank North Garden, UFC 118. I'm going to be able to watch it in the theater if I want bigger, bloodier guys in my face. What's the deal? Where'd you get this idea? This is like an old-timey 1940s idea.
Yeah, one of the great things, when we first bought this company, our only options were DirecTV, in-demand pay-per-view, and Dish Network, But as technology continues to grow, it's our friend, and we're into distributing this thing to as many people in as many ways as possible. So, I think that the movie theaters is a cool way. If you can't see it anywhere else and you want to go to a theater to see it, you see it in surround sound and on the big screen. It's a fun night. And it's not one of those things where you're going to go in there and everybody's going to be going, hey, shh, be quiet. It's a bunch of fans in there to have a good time just like you. Everybody's going to be cheering, jumping up and down, and yelling for fighters. So it's a pretty cool experience.
It is UFC 118. You can see it at TD Bank North Garden in Boston. You can get it on pay-per-view. As we just said, you can see it on a giant screen at a movie theater. Damn, pretty cool right there. Now,
bring a flask.
I do want to talk some Edgar Penn, but let's get to James Toney. I mean, what a great presence, a ridiculous interview, a man known as a great boxer, and he's taken on Randy Couture. Was this your brainchild, and what do we expect here?
I'd love to say, oh, yeah, this was my idea. I thought, no. James Toney chased me around the country, calling me horrible names, talking all kinds of smack about, mixed martial arts and boxer will win and all this stuff. I said, I thought we proved this in 1993, but apparently it didn't work for James Toney. James Toney's a real guy, and he wants to fight in the UFC, so Randy Couture is going to oblige him.
How does Randy feel about this, Dana?
Randy Couture is the one that called me and said, if this thing goes down and you end up doing this, I want this fight.
So, do you have a rooting interest here? Is it better for you if Randy wins versus Toney, or is Toney such a dynamic personality? It'd be pretty great to have him have a career in the UFC.
Well, here's the reality. James Toney, listen, I'm not. You got all these guys that'll, the fight guys that'll break it down and say, oh yeah, if you look at this stat and that stat, throw all the stats out the window. I've never been one of those stat guys or one of those guys that try to say Muhammad Ali would beat Mike Tyson. There's only one way to find out who's going to win a fight, and that's to have him fight.
Hear, hear.
So James Toney picked a fight for himself, and now we're going to do it. Listen, he's a real guy. He can knock you out with either hand. He's great at escaping damage. He's got great head movement. He took this fight very serious and has gotten in great shape, and we'll find out what's going to happen Saturday night.
And I guess as far as the MMA versus MMA fights go, how did Edgar beat Penn the first time around? Did that surprise you? How big an upset was that? And how's this rematch going to play out?
Listen, Frankie Edgar's the real deal, man. This kid is a very tough, well-rounded kid. The only knock that Frankie Edgar's ever had about him is his size, because he really could fight a weight class below or two below where he is right now. But he's been adamant that he's a 55-pounder, wanted to be there. He's knocked off all the best in the world, including one of the greatest all-time fighters ever, BJ Penn. And BJ's obviously coming back to prove that it was a fluke, and Frankie's coming back to prove that it wasn't.
You know, we had you on before the Anderson Silva fight there in 117, and we talked about what your expectations are from him, that you had a conversation with him. I can't imagine complacency is a good thing for an MMA fighter. Did that maybe sneak in and creep up on Penn that way? And how dangerous can that be? I mean, these dudes are trying to kick each other's heads in.
Who knows? You never know with this kid. The problem with BJ Penn is one of those naturally gifted guys. He's all this stuff comes easy to him. So usually those are the kind of guys that don't work as hard. You know, a guy like Frankie Edgar is a guy who goes out there and really, you know, goes after it and puts in the work. But BJ is such a freak of nature. He can pull anything off.
UFC 118 is happening on Saturday, August 28th, live on pay-per-view. Our friend Dana White joining us right now on the Petros and Money show, right here on Fox Sports Radio. He is the brains behind the UFC and has made them wildly successful. Dana, are you trying to saturate the market? It seems like we just talked to you about the Silva fight in Oakland. I mean, you're banging these things out like it's a baseball season.
That is funny. Listen, when people ask me, are you running too many UFCs? Well, I don't know. Are there too many baseball games on? Are there too many football games on? As long as we keep pumping out good fights, people want to see them. And even talking about this card with, you know, everybody's talking about Tony and Couture because of all the smack that Tony has talked for this fight. But we built a great card. I mean, the fight, the night starts off with Marcus Davis and Nate Diaz, Gray Maynard, Kenny Florian, Paula Harris versus Nate Marquardt, Couture and Tony, and then BJ Penn and Frankie Edgar. So as long as we keep pumping out cards like that, people are going to want to see them.
Well, that first pay-per-view fight between Diaz and Davis, I mean, just epic proportions of trash talking between these two dudes. I don't know if it's going to be that violent as their talk suggests it is. I think one of them said that they don't want to walk out of the octagon unless the other is a bloody pulp. Is that good for you? Do you ask them to temper that at times? Where do you sit when it gets to a level that looks like it could be, these guys are getting a little too personal?
It is what it is. The reality is, you know, some guys we get totally respect each other and say good things about each other and, you know, go into a fight, and I never tell them to trash talk each other to hype a fight. Then we have guys that just can't stop talking about each other and, you know, just say the craziest stuff ever. And I don't tell them to tone it down either, unless it gets really, I mean, it would have to get really crazy for me to listen. You can say whatever you want to say. At the end of the day, you're going to have to fight and back it up.
Well, and the fights will be this weekend. It is Saturday, Boston, Massachusetts. First time the UFC has been out to the Charles River by the Pockies.
Big fights, era.
You can watch it on pay-per-view.
Blood everywhere, era.
At a local movie theater on the big screen. Dana White has been our guest. Always love catching up with you, Dana. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks for the support, boys. Appreciate it.